have you been paying attention to the game design of that world, of those worlds?
Yeah, and the
sports
thing
games?
people, I think, with those kind of games, it is like, or racing games. Forza, put up there. I love Forza. Played them all. When you have to recreate something that's real in the real world, say it's cars or it's sports games, everybody knows how it should work. That's a really difficult task when people know how it should work. Then you're going to balance it for single player. The multiplayer parts of it, they get very, very competitive. And, in many respects, you're forced to put out a new version every year. And I say forced in quotes because they're, you count them as big updates. But it's a much more difficult development process than I think people understand, and how hard those teams work. I know a lot of people who do it, and I think they just do. I've enjoyed them all. I buy Madden every year.
So every single year. Yeah, they do refresh it. There's a feeling of freshness. I don't know what that is.
Look, there have been years where it feels like less was done and more was done, but I enjoy it every year.
Yeah. What does a perfectly productive day in the life of Todd Howard look like? So maybe not perfectly, but just like a perfectly average productive day. What are you, a morning person, evening person? Is it chaos? Is it pretty regular?
I'm in a good flow right now. I'm still doing a lot of stuff. So there's things I'm like executive producing, and then, Starfield I'm directing. So I sort of view that as that's an everyday thing. Fortunately, I get to do a lot of stuff, from look at the TV show we're making, and this Indiana Jones game that's being developed at Machine Games. So I get to look at that. But the best really day, or where I feel it's fulfilling, is get to play some of the game, we'll say Starfield, get to play some of Starfield, look at the problem set of what it is doing, and then get in a room with the other developers that I work closely with, and we solve that problem together. So that's the most rewarding thing, when you can say, okay, what do we want this to do? What's the real player experience we want? What are all the pieces in front of us, where you know the actual tangible pieces, as opposed to the beginning, the pie in the sky part is always fun, but it's like anything is possible. That's fun, but it's not rewarding in the same way because you haven't solved something. Whereas these are the elements you have to play with. How do we make this all work together? And you come out of it at the end of the day like, now that feels great.
So brainstorming about specific big picture, both big picture and very specific detail of a game that's not working, something's not working, you want to fix it, that kind of stuff.
Because you feel like, okay, you've made tangible progress on the actual build of the game. Or something you played in the beginning of the day, didn't feel great. You've figured out a solution with a group of people. Like, it's always with a group. And then the next day you're like, yeah, that worked out.
Who's on the team? Is it designers, engineers,
all the above,
artists, voice over?
So internal to the studio, it's, a lot of programming, a lot of art. You have design, which breaks into some, quest design, writing, systems design, who are like doing all the treasure and the loot and the skill systems.
Yeah.
And then level design is making the spaces like those that you'll play through. Production is a big part of it. The producers who organize everything. I can't remember if I mentioned art, a lot of artists. QA staff as well. They're hugely valuable in saying, hey, we broke your game in these magical ways. What are you going to do about it?
Is the loot design team still hiring? How do I apply? That seems like the most fun job.
Always.
I mean, all of this seems like a super fun job.
It is, what? It's the best. Then you have audio, and it by far is the greatest job you could possibly have. And so if you're into like technology, it's great. If you're into storytelling, creativity, and art, it's great. And it's really the gaming, the combination of that.
And like I mentioned to you offline, I think of video games to me, has brought thousands of hours of happiness. And so when you're designing the game, whatever you're doing, you have a part to play in a thing that's going to bring like millions, hundreds of millions of hours of happiness to people. It's crazy, right?
It is. And I'm gonna play play you saying that back to our team, because people forget. Your head's down, you're trying to solve these problems, and then you do forget how many people it touches.
Like even tiny decisions you make,
Yeah.
tiny little things you create. Yeah, it's weird. I wish there was a way to like I would notice things in a video game, and it's like, huh, okay, like it feels good, but you don't get that signal. The creator doesn't get that signal. I wish they did. I guess you could get that signal by, why is Lex stuck in this room, like digging through the loot?
We do now get a lot of good data on what the players are doing,
enjoying and not that kind of
well,
stuff.
we know where they've been and where they've died and how long they play in certain sections, and we can sort of tell outside of people just telling us on forums or calling or other things. We can tell for some data where people are dropping off or having we can tell if there's a key frustration point.
Do you ever think about making people feel like human feelings when they play? Like designing, like make them feel fear or excitement, anger, longing, loneliness with Starfield?
All the above. Yeah, of course. The big one I like to say is the video games give you is pride. Outside of other, if you watch movies or things like that, like, yeah, but you never think like, look what I did. Yes, and that feeling of like accomplishment and pride in what you did or you overcame. You talked about going back to a game that like, those are real feelings of like accomplishment that I've felt in games that I've played. And when we get to see a player feel that, it's really, really special. The other one is there is an escape or to be someone else that's more powerful in our games that you aren't in real life, that gives you a confidence or a perspective. We're doing one next week, but we've done a number of Make-A-Wish visits, kids who could wish for anything. And they want to come, and I want to see the next game and meet the creators and see how you do it. And they come with their family. And it is like the greatest thing that we do. And it reminds you of like how important it is. And the other really awesome thing is that you can see like the family change by the end of the day. Like they didn't even realize what it meant to their child or what went into it. And it's just, that to me is like been involved with that foundation for a number of years, and it's been really good, reminder of how lucky we are.
And in general, for young people, that sense of accomplishment is hard to find. I mean,
yeah, where they don't, not everybody has it in the outlets that real life provides.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the world is cruel to when you're young. Nobody takes you seriously. You don't get like, that's why everybody always wants to grow up and get old as quickly as possible.
It's the hardest. It's hard.
And then video games allow you, to build that sense of confidence, a sense of pride in something. That's why when people talk down to video games like it's a culture and so on, it's not. It misses out on that really deeply meaningful thing.
Agreed.
Especially with like single player, there's some darker aspects to multiplayer that people create communities, and it can go off the rails a bit. But the actual experience of the game, especially one where you stick with for a while, that's really beautiful. Do you have advice for those same young folks? Given that your life is an interesting one, given what kind of degree you got, end up being a legendary game designer, do you have advice for young folks in high school, maybe college, how to have a career or a life they can be proud of?
Well, you have to find something that you love so much that it's never going to feel like a job. And don't do it for money. Don't do it find something you love, and the rest of it will come. It won't be a straight path. And do not ever underestimate yourself. It's going to take hard work, but the worst thing that young people do is think they can't accomplish something, or they underestimate themselves. And maybe those first few times through where they do fail, if they love it enough, they're going to be resilient and push past that. Anyone who's had success or gotten somewhere, they've had those times, right? And they've stayed resilient because they love it so much that this is what they want to do. When you do it for other reasons, I just don't think it's going to work out the same.
Did you have low points in your life, dark points, where your mind went to a dark place, whether it's struggling to get a job at Bethesda Softworks, or maybe with a Red Guard flop, or where you kind of start to doubt yourself, or any of that?
Well, I think what's weird looking back, I was always so like in love with doing this that I didn't view them as like dark per se. Looking back, I was like, I just wanted to, okay, let me find a way to make this work.
Even when it's hard and it's failing and all that kind of stuff, you just kind of like, it's a problem before you to solve.
Yeah, when I started at Bethesda, I don't know, my father had moved nearby to the office. I was moving, and I slept on a sofa. Like, I didn't care. Like, I don't need a bedroom. I'll sleep on the sofa and work there. That's all I want to do. When the company almost went out of business, it was, well, I hope it doesn't. I feel somewhat responsible, but hey, that's a learning lesson. Let's go. I think I was pretty resilient to it all. Fallout 76, like, really bad launch. And okay, what did we do wrong? What can we learn? Let's go at it. Now it's a success. But those kind of ups and downs for the length of developments that we have, people don't see them, but we have them, all the time. And so it's that sort of belief that, with the team having done it time and time again, to know that, we're going to make it as good as we possibly can. And whatever we're experiencing now, when we solve it and we get it out and, we see the millions of people who love it, it's all worth it.